Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the Valentine's Day edition of Rhetorically Speaking. No, we're not going to do the Valentine's Day edition. This is the Frederick Douglass birthday edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Shouts to those of you who are watching on Facebook Live. Props to everybody who's tuned in on YouTube. And last but certainly not least, props to everyone who is watching on IG Live. It's always a better viewing experience if you watch it on Facebook and YouTube. So listen, I'm supposed to be teaching right now. I probably shouldn't even be saying this live just in case the powers that be are watching. But so we're gonna get this in and out. Salute, Leslie. How you feeling? So as you know, listen, I've been sporadic with the content. Right, I've just been going off feel. How am I feeling today? I'm in a doctoral program. I got my doctoral student shirt. It's kind of obnoxious. You know what I mean? I got the little beard stain right there. That's some little beard juices and berries. I had to pick the beard out prior to getting on. But I felt compelled to come on today to have this conversation on the Super Bowl halftime. Listen. I can't lie. I was hurt. I was hurt by the Super Bowl halftime show. The fact that so many of our biggest and brightest were on stage shucking and jiving for the powers that be, that is the NFL. Eminem not included, because he's not, I don't look at him in that same way. I'm speaking specifically to Dr. Dre, Snoop, the Queen, Monet, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar, 50 Cent. 50 gonna be, he is who he is. But I was just disappointed, right? And so, it was like a visceral reaction from their performance. Yes, I watched, right? I'm at this stage where, do I feel convicted watching? I do. I asked that old Sonia Sanchez question of how does it free us? Me seeing what's taking place with Brian Flores, me seeing what's taking place with Colin Kaepernick, me seeing what's taking place with the health and how the NFL has treated the health of all of their players, but specifically their black and brown players. There is absolutely no reason for me to be watching it, especially where I am in this journey of understanding self outside of whiteness, right? There's really no need for me to be watching it. But I watched. What Steve Harvey say? He not done with me yet. Right? So the ancestors, they aren't done with me yet. But I had this visceral reaction. That's the reason why I decided to come on for this next 15 or 20 minutes to rant a little bit. And so the first part of that reaction came from Eminem. And so for those of you who are watching, you'll see in the top left hand corner, you'll see this picture of Eminem kneeling. You see this picture of Eminem kneeling. And so when I saw it in real time, I immediately was like, what are you doing, fam? And then it went from, what are you doing, fam, to, why are you doing this, fam? And I left it alone at that. The game continued. It was a good game. Again, I like athletics. I like competition. So I'm still in that process of disassociating myself from the NFL, from institutions that don't mean black and brown folk any good, despite it employing a high majority of black and brown folk. Well, a high majority of black and brown folk make up their employees. You know, once I get the NFL down, then it's Amazon is next. But like Steve Harvey said, he's not done with me yet. The ancestors, that is. And so I see Eminem kneeling, right? And I go to sleep, watch the rest of the game. I wake up and I see so many probationary allies. I see probationary allies talking about way to go, Eminem. What a way to stick it to the NFL. And this, mind you, this is about 7 o'clock in the morning. I done played my Wordle game already. I did my daily Wordle. And I'm seeing these posts from probationary allies. And I call them probationary allies because they're one tweet away. They're one comment away from being back on the other side. And so with that said, I became like, I started to feel it a little bit. And then I saw Kamal Bell, Mr. We Need to Talk About Cosby. And I saw his post where the NFL said, don't do it. And Eminem does it anyway. And the way it read kind of nasty, like he was lauding Eminem for kneeling. And I had to take a step back. I had to sit and say, what the hell am I missing? From my perspective, this looked like some performative nonsense that we do see from probationary allies. But there's no substance that exists in the effort. And so I continued on about my day, and I kept seeing more and more saluting to Eminem. And I'm like, listen, when it comes to hip-hop conversations about Marshall Mathers, I'm not a fan of his sadistic rhyme schemes. People say it's complex. I'm not a fan of it, right? But that's not influencing this critique of this performative measure, right? I found it to be an empty gesture, as there are zero consequences attached to his actions. He won't miss concerts. People are still going to book him. He won't see a reduction in album sales, partially because, listen, he's jumped the shark a little bit, right? He's past his prime. But nonetheless, he has a solid fan base who's going to support him when he does the bam, 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 scam, man. You know what I mean? When he raps like that, again, not my cup of tea. But what I think of when I juxtapose it to Colin Kaepernick and what was at stake for him, he lost a career, right? He could have questioned his identity. Who am I now? But instead, he leaned in to blackness, right? He leaned into this greater sense of purpose. Yes, he wanted to continue his career, but he recognized that this is bigger than Nino Brown. Yes, I would love to play football, but my purpose, my passion, my being is rooted in black liberation. And so I will do whatever it takes to hopefully see this fulfilled in my lifetime, which neither he nor I will. But you know what? At least I'm making deposits, right? I'm part of the solution, not part of the problem. And so we recognize the millions of dollars that Cap lost. He could have easily been a good soldier and continued on, right? He could have apologized. He could have lied and said the purpose of him kneeling wasn't about the killing of unarmed black men. Which, again, you know I always have a problem with this killing of unarmed black men narrative. You shouldn't be killing folk if they're armed either, right? We find ways to not kill individuals who do pose a threat. And so, that always skeeved me when I hear that, right? And so when we talk about Eminem and his kneeling, what was at risk? He's a multimillionaire. And so, of course, I try to look at solutions. What could he have done? Because if I was ever in conversation with him, with Marshall, and he like, Phil, well, what could I have done? And I'd have been like, fam, solidarity and probationary allyship could look like you easily publicly denying the invitation to perform, whether it be from the NFL or from your mentor, Dr. Dre. You could have got in front of a microphone and cited racist hiring practices instead of kneeling for Cap. You could have cited Cap being blackballed as why you won't perform and why you don't want your millions and millions of followers to watch. You could have talked about, as I talked about earlier, the NFL's dealing with the health of NFL players. Again, you didn't have to perform. That would have been the biggest protest. In the different spaces that I've been absorbing content, they talked about Jay-Z boycotting the Grammys. Back in, what was it, 98, 99, something like that? Because DMX wasn't nominated. Again, capitalism can change, right? One being beholden to capitalism can change their mindset. But instead of protesting in a way that is impactful, because again, this is an empty gesture. You kneel, folk talk about it. Oh my gosh, you upset the NFL and the owners. Kudos to you. Fam, them advertising you being on the halftime show made them tens of millions of dollars through advertising, through viewership. But we saluting Cap. Miss me with that. Right? Miss me with that. And listen, again, Eminem was the least of my concern. Even though it might seem like it was. More concerning to me was the brother. And again, we all fall short of the glory of God, right? More concerning to me was the brother Kendrick Lamar. And it hurts. Right? It hurts. I can explain away and acknowledge that Marshall's whiteness is created this false idea that I'm an ally by kneeling on stage at the Super Bowl. I can explain that away. But when it comes to Kendrick Lamar, I was disappointed. And it was the type of disappointment that you have when your mother, she might tell you to do something and you don't do it and she says, I'm disappointed. Or you're acting out in school and your folk get that phone call and you're expecting to be yelled at, but instead of getting yelled at, it's the, I'm disappointed. Because we know that cuts a little bit deeper, that parental disappointment. And so that's what I felt with Kendrick Lamar. And this has been long-standing, right? This has been at least for the last 2.5 years. So it's not just his willingness to perform at the Super Bowl halftime. It's not only the song that he performed at the Super Bowl halftime, but it's the fact that this is his first public appearance since George Floyd was assassinated, was murdered by the cowards that killed Amir Locke. This is the first appearance. This is my first time seeing him. Back when it took place, I said, listen, I don't know how Lil Baby has the hardest anthem out during this movement, but he does because he was the only one, mainstream I'm talking, right? We know others, who don't have that that high of a public regard, that celebrity, we know the Backpack has been rapping about this. But if anybody, I was expecting Kendrick. Recently, I've been listening to Pimp a Butterfly, listening to it every day. Genius, masterpiece. Which again influences how I'm seeing Kendrick in the Golden Lords, who is his background dancers. And so I'm like, Kendrick, I didn't hear not nan word from you when George Floyd was murdered, when Jacob Blake was shot. But now here you are on the biggest stage and you come out for this? Word. That's the disappointment. That's that black mother disappointment. And so it's like, okay, at least I know Kendrick gonna give me what he gave me at the Grammys. Right? Remember that Grammys performance? That was super black. Even though when we think about these institutions like the Grammys, the racist Grammys, the racist Oscars, you can only do so much. No matter how super blackity black you perform, it still look like you shucking and jiving for massa. And so I'm sitting here like, all right, 50 going 50, right? Snoop going Snoop. But I was Kendrick. Kendrick gonna be on some fuck white people shit. Fuck the NFL. I just know it was coming. I knew it was coming. Now, mind you, I've been listening to Pimp a Butterfly for the last 3 weeks. Every day. How much $1 cost. Wesley's Theory. Complexion. And so he comes out and he comes out with all right. And I'm like, no, brother. Not all right. That's our anthem. That's like singing Lift Every Voice and Sing before NFL games. This doesn't belong in this venue. That's for us. That's something that black folk hold sacred. When Mike Brown was murdered, right? The years after, when we in the streets, we singing all right. We gonna be all right. Encouraging us. Why the fuck are we doing this in front of them? And so that had me on 10. Because I'm like, no, brother. That's not how any of this goes. But apparently for Kendrick, that's how it went. And I'm like, okay, all right, it's just what it is. And I know he gonna do that line. I know he gonna sing the line. And we hate Popo. They killing us in the street for show. But when the line came, matter of fact, I'm gonna play it for you. I'm gonna play it for you so you can hear it.
Down before, when the pride was low, looking at the world like, where do we go? And we ain't wanna kill a dead in the street for show. I'm at the pre.
Wait, just in case you missed it, I'm gonna play it again.
Down before, when the pride was low, looking at the world like, where do we go? And we ain't wanna kill a dead in the street for show. I'm at the pre.
He omitted it. He omitted and we hate. He didn't say Popo. And I was taken aback. Like, fam, this is one of the most powerful lines in hip hop history. And you're omitting it, a key element of the lyric, of the verse. You're omitting it? For who? For them? Bruh. That's all I had. That's all I had was a bruh. Right? And it's just like, fam, you capitulating to the whims of the oppressor. Like, that's noble. Like, first you've been gone. You've been gone for some years. You might pop up here and there. You might do a song with Baby Keem. Right? You might do a verse on Baby Keem, smoking on somebody top 5 tonight. You know how I feel about that. That smoking on. We know what that come from. That come from drill music. Folks smoking on ops and how problematic that is. But this is what you come out to do. It makes you question, like, wait, is this a Kendrick clone? Because I don't know this brother. I don't recognize him, not Nan bit. But yet, I still tried to reconcile, why he might be a part of something like this. And I'm just straight perplexed. I haven't found the answer, right? And the more I listened to Pimp a Butterfly, because I went back and listened to How Much a Dollar Costs, right? When he's talking about the pursuit of the almighty dollar and what it can cost the individual seeking it. What are you on here for? You're not getting paid, so you get your streams up. Is this a rollout for an album that's coming? And you got to put your face back out here? I think about the song when it talks about just the price our spirit pays. How can you create a song like How Much a Dollar Costs and then be able to go out and your spirit not be convicted? See, yes, I can admit to watching, the second half of the Super Bowl, watching the halftime show, and acknowledge how convicted I felt. It just didn't feel aligned to where I'm at. And I need to lean into that. I need to acknowledge that. I question, did he have the same conviction? Right? I try to understand the mentality that comes from it. From somebody who's literally telling us in the song, all right, talking about black pain, black struggle, but highlighting black resilience on this quest of black liberation. But you're doing it for them. And so, see, for me, this is one of those it's hard to come back from. Now, you might be like, Phil, it's just an entertainer, right? He is who he is. He's human. Granted. But it's important that we hold our entertainers accountable. It makes you think about, and this isn't the only person I've had this thought about, like, who's in these circles that's holding folk accountable? I see Jay-Z jigging, right? He the one that told us we're past kneeling. We need more actionable steps, which we haven't seen. Maybe it was Eminem kneeling. Maybe it was Kendrick doing We Gonna Be All Right. Maybe that's what it's all about. But when we start looking at, and it's important, right, that we look at our entertainers from past, during these various movements, during the Black Power movement, during the Civil Rights movement. Listen, the week before last, I talked about the initial, the episode 1 of We Need to Talk About Cosby. And subsequently, I didn't talk about the rest of the episodes. That doesn't mean I don't have thoughts on them. But one of the things that I saw in Bill Cosby, no matter how nasty and perverted and how much of an abuser he was and potentially is, this one aspect of him, right, where he recognized what I need to do for black folk. Now, another argument could be made that he forgot everything when he went on this run about pulling your pants up, and it's y'all fault y'all in this condition. But in the beginning, when that light switch that the ancestor Gil Scott Heron talks about, when you're awakened, it's hard to turn that shit off. And so for me, this might not have been Kendrick turning it off, but this was like some flickering, right? Because you've been absent. You ain't been with us shooting in the gym when we was doing all of this. Now I know you got the folk who say it's the behind the scenes. It's about the behind the scenes. We don't know what he's doing. But a requirement for black celebrity is doing this shit in the spotlight. Speaking truth to power in the spotlight because you have that position. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. This is what you asked for. I didn't ask you to create To Pimp a Butterfly. Or to create what's the album after To Pimp a Butterfly? I got the image on the damn. Where you're using that clip from Geraldo. It's the impetus it's the intro to a song. It makes you question, did you even mean all of that? All we know is what we see. And so again, I was left with this Sonia Sanchez question of, how does any of this free us? This blackety black halftime show. Right? Is this a win for Black America? But all I see is our biggest and brightest operating from the white gaze Toni Morrison talked about, where our success, our freedom, and subsequently our existence has meaning in the context of whiteness and its standards only. Or in the words of Pablo Freire, alienation, right? Alienation is what we're seeing, right? We see our biggest and our brightest, our celebrities, they alienate themselves from the people. Not recognizing that the oppressed, right, that they are a part of, how so bad they want to resemble the oppressor, to imitate them, to follow them. That's why we see rappers getting tattoos of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk on their arm. While we see Dr. Dre and Jay brag about being worth a billy. Kanyewest worth $6 billion. While they'll say, listen, you don't have to pay me because I know what this will do to my career. This will get me booked here, here, and there. Again, who are we doing this for? From watching that wasn't about us. That was a selfishness, right? That was about individualism. There was no community in that. No matter how many hip-hop celebrities you get up there was no community in that. And so the last question that I have, and it might be rhetorical, was how much do a dollar cost? With that said, let's see what y'all talking about. Your favorite therapist said the NFL are big time gaslighters to our people. I don't even know if is it gaslighting, right? Do they even have a relationship with us to where they can even gaslight us? We recognize who they are. They understand who they are. So I don't even know if it's necessarily a gaslighting situation. They're not trying to convince us of anything. They're saying this is who we are. Right? We're going to give you this Rooney rule to placate you for a minute or two. We're going to give you this halftime show. Make you feel good, make you dance. I don't think there's any effort to have them change how we think, or to make us think that we're the problem somehow. I just don't think they give. Let me see what else is popping as I check the time. It's good old 7:06. I was going to talk about Kanyewest, but that's going. I want to have that conversation with somebody, and where he is. Is he having a mental health breakdown? But with that said, let me get to class, man. Listen, I appreciate y'all tuning in for these moments. I see you thinking, saying, come through tomorrow. We're going to finish this conversation off tomorrow. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Until tomorrow, peace.